My name is Nadal Wadi with UTSA's Department of History. I'm here today with Brianna Dzierzanowski. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is my first interview with UTSA.
First interview
ever.
Okay, well, I'm happy that I could crack the shell there. So tell me a little bit about your major and where you currently are in your academic career.
Okay, yeah, so I'm a history major. I'm a master's candidate, so that's really exciting. I should be graduating in the spring, so it took me about 2 years. I started in the fall of 2021, right after I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2020. So it's been kind of like nonstop. I had a short break, but it's been pretty nonstop since then. So yeah, I'll graduate in the spring, hopefully. I will.
Yeah.
We're setting that.
We're
putting it into the atmosphere. I will graduate in the spring. But yeah, the program's been really great so far. I have honestly nothing but good things to say about it. It's challenging, but it's made me a better historian all in all, and that's the goal. And that's kind of the whole point of the program, is making us better, getting us ready to go out in society and, be historians. So that's really exciting.
I've been lucky enough to witness you being a historian.
Yes.
At like our now History Scholar Symposium, which we held in fall of 2022. Can you tell me a little bit about that project that you constructed for that presentation?
Yeah, so that was actually a historiography paper that I had to kind of convert into a presentation, which was interesting because I've never done that before. The Now Symposium was amazing because I've never been able to speak or present my research in that big of a environment or atmosphere, I guess. It was nerve-wracking. I was a little nervous, but I do enjoy speaking in front of people. I am a teacher as well, so I'm used to that. What I'm not used to is presenting my own personal work. I was nervous to see how it would come off. It was a little bit of a controversial topic. I work on gender studies. I specifically like talking about women, and that paper was about patriarchy in colonial Latin America. The challenge was it had to be on a global panel, so I had to pull a paper out from a subject that I did in colonial Latin America. It's not really my field, so I was a little nervous. But I think altogether it came out really well. It was a topic that I was passionate about. I particularly focus on women in colonial America. So it was kind of a similar topic, it's just in a different area. So it gave me a lot of insight for my own personal interest, and I think that was good for me. It tested me, it was a good challenge. But basically, I wrote that paper for Dr. Konov's class. He thought it was good. So I presented the paper. It went really well, I think.
I think so as well.
I'm glad you think so.
I was in attendance, of course, so I was able to kind of work the event, take some photos here and there, and then see all the presentations. And I think you did a great job. You were up there on the panel answering questions. And
that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
The questions, that was tough.
I imagine it would be.
I felt like I was under pressure.
Right. Not only are you presenting like your research in that format, but then you're also having to kind of engage in dialogue about it.
Yeah, and almost defend it in a way. Because, these papers are kind of our own personal take on, not really our own personal take, but it's basically what am I hearing? What am I seeing? And how can I pull that all together and make it into an argument? That was a little tricky because I haven't done too much work in that field. I would have really loved to present my research in Salem. I'm doing the Salem witch trials for my mini thesis for our seminar. So I would have loved to present that research because that's like my little baby. It's my baby of a project. I'm so proud of it. But it was really awesome to be able to present any work at all. So I'm happy that I had that experience. And I'm happy to be a Now Scholar as well. It's been amazing.
Yeah, tell me about how you got into that program.
Yeah, so I applied for a scholarship. So this is my first, I've never been to UTSA. So I graduated from A&M San Antonio. I love the UT system. I thought, I've heard great things about the program here. I wanted to give it a shot, so I signed up, got accepted. And then I just started applying for scholarships because
that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, you
need
all
the support that you can get. Yeah.
So I was kind of encouraged to apply for the Now Scholar Program, and I did with no expectations because it's a big scholarship and it's also a really big honor. So I applied, no expectations, just kind of wanted to. And I knew Now Scholars previously from the semester before. I didn't apply my first semester, only my second semester. But I knew Now Scholars from the first semester, and they are very prestigious historians. So I kind of just put my application in there to see, what would happen. And I was fortunate enough to get the scholarship, and that was a huge relief for me. Not only because I didn't have to worry about tuition anymore, but also it's almost enough that you can kind of relax on work a little bit and just focus on your studies. And that's been so nice because I've been able to dive into my work in a way that I never have before because I've always worked through college. So it's kind of given me this comfort in a way that I've never experienced before. And I love being a TA as well. And that's another part of it.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're teaching. So you're a TA here at the university?
Yes, so I was a TA for it was a World War II course with Dr. Kelly, so I was fortunate enough to work with him. I know he's retiring, and that's really sad, but I was able to work with him for a semester, and I'm so grateful because he's probably one of the best professors I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Love you, Dr. Kelly. And this semester I'm a TA for the history of Cuba, and it's awesome because I've already taken the course. So I took the course in a graduate level setting. I took it this summer, and I absolutely fell in love with the course. It was very eye-opening, and now I'm a TA for the course in an undergraduate level, so I'm able to do the full 16-week class, and I can already tell that I'm going to be learning a lot. So I'm really excited about that as well. It's an honor to work with undergraduate students. I had a TA when I was an undergraduate student, and I always admired them. And now I'm in that role, so it's kind of full circle, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud. It kind of makes me realize how far I've come in this field, and I think I can finally now say that I am proud of myself for everything I've done.
That's great news. Based on what I know about you, what little I know, it seems warranted.
Yes.
And that's really exciting. It's kind of like, especially TAing for a course you've already taken, sort of like taking a victory lap. And also getting to support other students along the way.
That's the best part. I told them the first class that I've already taken the course, and that if they needed any help at all, I'm willing and able to help. It feels good to be able to help students through something, and it also kind of gives me experience in a college setting because I do eventually want to be a professor. So it kind of is like getting my feet wet a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something I sort of wanted to ask about as well, as far as your goals and aspirations post your current graduate program.
Yeah, so I am already a teacher. So I got my teacher certification along with my bachelor's of history for 7th through 12th social studies. So
that's what I'm doing here.
Yay! That's so exciting. Well, if you need any help, let me know because I got you.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I did that. The testing process was it was difficult, but it's rewarding once you finish it and you get that certification and you're a teacher and it's amazing. So I did that. I was in the school system for a while. I was long-term subbing while I was in the graduate program just to kind of continue working, but also keep my foot in the door with the school district. And it was awesome and I enjoyed it, but I knew I wanted to continue my education and I wanted to eventually teach higher ed. So I joined the program, I started doing my master's degree, and then I became a TA, and that really solidified the fact that I know that I want to be a professor one day. Also, I did my student teaching in my undergraduate career with a teacher who was dual credit. So he was basically a high school teacher, but also working with the Alamo colleges. It was really exciting to see the content that he was teaching for that course. And I knew that that was something I was interested in. I like college level courses. And the students were awesome. They were responsive. They were just very, very bright students. They were asking critical thinking questions. I like that. I like students who are interested in what they're learning, and that's college. You come here to learn. You don't come here because you have to. You come here because you want to, and you want to further your knowledge and your career, and you want to do better. And I think that is the beauty of college in general. We're here because we want to be.
I totally agree, and it's really exciting to see those K through 12 students kind of get that spark as well.
Yeah.
When did you kind of feel that, and what brought you to history, to studying history?
That's a good question. I've always kind of had this weird fascination with old things and old places. So, I mean, I was born and raised in Texas, and there's a lot of history here. I worked at the Alamo for a summer. Well, I still work there technically. And I got my feet wet with the museum world, and I fell in love with that as well. So that's also a possible career that I'm interested in.
And you're a San Antonio native?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
I'm also born and raised Texan, and there's so much history here,
yeah.
but especially so in San Antonio.
Oh yeah, and working at the Alamo really put that into perspective. My uncle was a big history buff, and he used to take me to places like Gonzales and Goliad and just all these places where history has taken place here. And I was a huge nerd for it. I loved it. But honestly, my favorite subject was English. I love reading, it's my passion. So it's like, how do I combine English with these historical places and put it all together? And that is basically history in a nutshell. I do nothing but read. I mean, I think my first semester of grad school really shocked me because I was given about 15 books per class that I was taking.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not even kidding. I took a picture of my reading stack list, and it was like pile tied, 2 sets of books, and that's not even including the online journals that we had to read. I was so overwhelmed with reading. It was great reading. It was amazing, but I've never read that many books in that short of time in my entire life.
And I'm sure these are not easy
books.
books.
I was like a fantasy novel kind of person, and now I'm reading, autobiographies and primary sources, and it's great. But we also learn English as well. I mean, we learn about, like Upton Sinclair and all these authors, and we also get the history of it as well. We're not just learning about the book itself. We're learning about who these people were, why were they writing it, what were they going through, what was happening in history that made them write these things.
Right.
So that was like a huge part of it as well. I wanted to get the full story, and I think that's something that history allows me to do. A huge thing that I'm working on right now is silence narratives. So I love learning history that's not told in the mainstream narrative. I like learning about women's history because a lot of it isn't told. I like learning about Mexican American history because a lot of it has been erased from the narrative. So I think those things are really important, and I think that's why I chose history ultimately, because if we don't know these things, how are we ever gonna advance? How are we going to continue going on learning things that's only one-sided, or we're not getting the full history? And I think that is what's important about this field. Truly, I think it might be one of the most important fields, because if we don't know where we've come from, how do we know where to go from here?
I absolutely agree, and it's really amazing to see how people with different backgrounds and different perspectives can bring out these untold stories, because history is all what has been told.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't been told, it hasn't been recorded and maintained, then we have no idea if it actually happened. But historians have this ability to kind of travel back in time and say, actually, we can make the story larger if you look at it with a different perspective and with this new information.
And I definitely do get caught up in my readings. Like, I'm working a lot with Salem right now, the witch trials, 1690s, and I find myself getting sucked into the pieces, especially the primary sources, and I feel like I'm transported into that, era. And it's obviously I wouldn't want to be living during that time, but
observing it is really fascinating.
It's I mean, I've never experienced anything like it. You can watch shows and Netflix documentaries and all these things, but nothing is as satisfying as like opening this document, reading a firsthand account of what was going on, a diary, and really just being transported into the time. It's amazing, truly. I'm so happy that I chose the field that I did. Usually like you get through your program and you decide, okay, what was I doing? Like, why did I do that? I don't even like this field. But for me, I came in and I was like, I have a fascination with history. Sure, I'll teach it. Great. And then it turned into this whole passion. you know, I grew to love history more as I went through the program. And that's something that I think is powerful and it makes me happy. I think I chose right, you know.
That's amazing.
So,
And that makes me feel more confident that I've chosen the path that I've chosen as well, because
yeah.
it seems sort of parallel. There are a lot of parallels there. And taking your time with it is really helpful too.
Yeah.
I transferred here to UTSA last semester as my first semester here.
Okay.
I got an associate's before, and now I'm continuing my undergrad. And
Yeah.
I feel like it really helps you know that you won't have to change your mind about anything. You won't have to backtrack because you're taking your time and you're
Yes.
certain with your steps.
Yes. Being certain with your steps is, so I transferred, I was a transfer student as well. I went to the Alamo colleges and then I transferred to my university and then I came here, and I feel like it's just stepping stones, but at your own pace. I enjoy school. I like learning and I want to continue. So every semester I'm like, okay, what's next? What do I get to take this semester? Like,
what kind of challenges do we have? Where do I get to go to in history?
Yeah, and like picking your classes is so fun too, because you really, I mean, that's one thing I love about this program is that they give you a lot of opportunity to choose the classes that you want. They just make you choose, okay, you need this many in this field and this many in this field, but that's okay, because then after that they're like, go ahead and pick what you want, like learn what you want. We want you to be a historian and focus on the things that you want to talk about. And that has made me really proud to be a part of this program, because I feel like I ultimately came to two different topics that I really enjoy and that I want to continue to work on even after I graduate. And I think this program has helped me figure out, okay, where do I want US? Do I want world history? What part of US do I want to focus on? What decade? Like where are my interests? And I think that this program has given me so much room to grow as a historian. And truly, like my cohort, I love the seminar program. I love the pro-seminar seminar program because you get to work so closely with your friends, you know, and they all have topics that are so different from each other. It's fascinating to learn and hear about, like when we give our presentations. It's almost like you're learning a new topic every time. Like one of my good friends is talking about animal liberation, and then another one of my good friends is talking about euthanasia and World War II, and it's just so many different topics in so many different fields that I feel like they really value uniqueness.
It makes it all the more exciting to enter the field because you know how expansive your perspective is, and then to have all of these colleagues that are going to have equally as large interests. It just shows you how much the story is going to be able to develop.
And it's weird also how different our fields are, but how much similar interests we have as well. Like we're always sharing books. Like, hey, I ran, my friend the other day was like, hey, I ran across this Salem witchcraft book. I don't know if it'll work, but here you go. And I'll run into things that I'll send them. And we all just kind of support each other, and we know each other's topics and our interests, and we just share those fields. And it feels nice to be supported by your peers as well.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's really, really great news as a student here and as someone who's interested in history.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend continuing.
Well, I'll see about that. And you know, it's curious to me because I have had, I mean, the professors are very encouraging here at UTSA that I've found, and I've had a lot of conversations about continuing my education, but I have a hard time imagining how I'll balance working as a high school teacher, for instance, and an MA history student.
Yeah, so for me, as a teacher and in the master's program as well, I knew that I didn't want to become a first-year teacher and have that first-year experience that I'm sure they've told you all about in the teaching program. The first year is the hardest.
It's like you're enlisting.
Yes, it's like a nightmare of probation period. It's just it's very tough. I've talked to a lot of first year teachers who feel the same way. It's a struggle, and I knew that for my own mental health, I did not want to be a first year teacher and be in the master's program at the same time. The good thing about working in the school district is they pay you a little bit more, actually quite a bit more, if you have that degree and that certification, and they allow you to long-term sub. So that's kind of what I did. You don't have the responsibility of a first-year teacher in terms of lesson planning and unit planning, but you get the experience of being in a classroom. and that's really nice. And I was able to do that while I was in the graduate program. So if I have any recommendation at all, I would say if you're not comfortable having that full-time job as well as being in the graduate program, maybe do long-term sub or some part-time in the school district while getting the degree, because it's at will, and that's so nice. And that's what I did, and it worked out really well for me. And also apply for the Now Scholarship, because that really helped as well.
Yeah, I'm adding all of this wisdom that I'm getting from everybody into my toolkit.
Right.
As I continue. And I greatly appreciate the advice. I know you shouted out Dr. Kelly. Are there any other particular staff or faculty members you'd like to shout out?
A lot of them, actually. I would say Dr. Michelle, because he might have been the toughest professor I've ever had in my entire life, but in the best possible way. I truly feel like he made my writing so much better. I took the U.S. since the Great Depression with him. I believe it was my first semester. If I wouldn't have taken him, I feel like I would not know the level of writing that I needed to be doing in the program. Also, I would say Dr. Jerry Gonzalez, because he taught me how to write historiography. And that is what the master's program is all about. I mean, even the end comp is a historiography. So I had never really written historiography before, and I would say that he taught me how to do that. It's kind of like, this is what you do, it's okay, he guided me with it.
For those who may not know, would you mind defining historiography?
Yeah, so for historiography, you read a bunch of works on one topic or maybe multiple topics, and you kind of say, okay, what are these authors saying about this certain topic? What do I want to say about this topic? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of just weave them all together in a way, and you come up with an argument, and then at the end you just come up with this paper that's uniquely yours, but also a combination of other authors.
So it's sort of like building your narrative and your particular historical perspective.
Yeah, they teach you how to do that when you get to this level. Because I don't remember writing historiography in my undergrad program. But when I got to my master's program, it was all historiography, and I was very confused. I was like, what is this? This is a big word.
There's been a shift.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? But that's why I give so much credit to Dr. Jerry Gonzalez, because he taught us how to do that. And in a way that's, because I'm a first generation college student. So I don't know what I was doing when I came here, or, when I was getting my other degrees. But he's also a first-generation college student. I think he understands the pressure that we face. So he made it very approachable, and I respect that. I respect that from any professor. I think being approachable and kind is really important.
And I feel like you find so much of that in the history department here.
Yes.
That's what I've found. And I'm like, this is a space for us. This is a space where we can thrive in addition to any other variety of student.
Yeah. I really love a community that makes you feel supported and safe and comfortable and care about your mental health, because I think that's really important, especially in programs like these. They're very challenging, very fast-paced. They care. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the most important part of any program, really.
Yeah, it's a great way to be seen as an individual and as a person, not just as a student.
Right, or just, not just as tuition. They see us as historians, and they hold us to a high standard, but also understand the pressures that we face. So as a teacher, I think that is what I try to give my students, and it's nice to see my teacher is giving that to me in return.
Well, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to have found this space. I'm glad that you seem to have found that space for yourself as well. If there's nothing else that you'd like to talk about in particular, then we can conclude our time for today. But
I think we're good.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know
it was fun.
we communicated for a while back and forth, like trying to schedule it. Now that I know you're a teacher, I understand why.
It's a busy schedule, especially at the end of term.
All right. Well, take care of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.